Ever get that feeling? You know, like when you walk into a room and just suddenly feel totally out of your element, like everyone's watching you, judging every move? Well, get ready for some aha moments, because today we're going deep on power and presence and body language.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah. You shared these audio excerpts from a book all about presence, and we're going to unpack some pretty fascinating findings.
I'm excited to dive in. It is amazing how much our feelings of power,
Yeah.
or even just like lack of power can impact us.
It's true. I mean, the audio talked about how those feelings can actually change how we think and feel and even how we act.
Hmm.
And get this, it can even influence our hormones.
Yeah,
Wild,
I
right?
totally. It really shows that mind-body connection. And I think what's interesting is how much we underestimate the impact of feeling powerless.
Yeah, and the audio didn't really sugarcoat it either. It went into how powerlessness can make us anxious and, mess with our ability to think clearly. It's almost like our brains kind of go into this protection mode,
Yeah,
making us hesitant and less likely to take risks.
I like that. Protection mode. That's a great way to put it.
Hmm.
It's like when we feel powerless, our brains essentially shift into what researchers call this inhibition mode, and so we become more risk-averse and less likely to take action. It's almost like our inner alarm bells are going off, telling us to play it safe.
Totally. And it can even affect our ability to connect with other people, right? I remember the audio mentioned a study where people who were feeling powerless had trouble reading other people's emotions accurately.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like we become so focused on our own insecurities and anxieties that we totally miss these crucial social cues.
Oh, yeah. Like when you're feeling self-conscious and you think everyone's staring at you, judging you, it's like a spotlight effect.
Yeah.
And turns out that that feeling of being under a spotlight, well, it's actually amplified by powerlessness. It makes us think everyone's noticing our flaws, even when they probably aren't. Remember that study with the embarrassing t-shirts?
Oh, yeah.
People wearing those shirts thought way more people noticed than actually did.
Classic example of how our internal state can totally distort our perception of reality.
So it's not just about, feeling bad, but powerlessness can actually mess with our thinking and our ability to connect with others. Really makes you think, huh.
It really does. It really underscores the importance of understanding these dynamics so we can, learn to navigate them more effectively.
Absolutely. But hey, before we go too deep into the doom and gloom, let's shift gears for a sec. The good news is the audio didn't just leave us hanging on a cliff of despair. It actually dove into the flip side. You know, the power of feeling powerful. And guess what?
I'm all ears. What does it say?
Well, it's not all about dominating others or, having control.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
The audio suggests that feeling powerful when used constructively can be incredibly beneficial.
Okay, I like where this is going.
So we'll get into that next. Get ready to be surprised. Okay, so we talked about how feeling powerless, well, it's not so fun. But what about the flip side?
Yeah, good point.
What happens when we feel powerful? The audio hinted that it's not all about like dominating others or having control.
Right. The research actually suggests that, feeling powerful when it's used constructively can be incredibly beneficial. It's like having this inner reserve of strength, and
Yeah.
resilience that helps you navigate challenges better.
Yeah, and the audio mentioned a study where people in like high power roles could actually handle physical pain better.
Uh-huh.
They had people hold their hands in ice water, and the ones who felt powerful could tolerate it way longer.
Oh, wow.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, that's a great illustration of how power can actually buffer us against discomfort. Like it's almost like having this internal shield that protects us from, feeling overwhelmed by those negative experiences.
That's wild. So power can make us tougher. What about our social skills, though? Isn't there this like stereotype that powerful people are more likely to be, well, kind of selfish or inconsiderate?
I see what you mean. It's a common misconception, though. Research actually suggests the opposite. Feeling powerful can make us more empathetic and better at reading other people's emotions.
Wait, really? That's so counterintuitive. You'd think power would make people more like focused on themselves, not others.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Yeah.
But there's a growing body of evidence to support this idea. Like, for example, studies have shown that people feeling powerful are more likely to forgive someone who's wronged them.
That's interesting. So it's like power gives you this capacity to rise above the situation and act with more compassion.
Exactly. And this links to another fascinating aspect of power. It can inspire us to actually help others and be more generous. There's research suggesting that people who feel powerful are more likely to engage in what we call pro-social behaviors.
So it's not just about taking care of yourself, but also about extending that sense of strength and capability to other people.
Precisely. It's like power expands your capacity for both, self-care and care for others.
Mm-hmm.
And this has big implications for leadership.
Mm-hmm.
you know, because when leaders feel empowered, they're more likely to create environments that foster collaboration and empathy and mutual respect.
It's inspiring to think that power can be used as a force for good for both ourselves and for the people around us.
Totally. It challenges this traditional view of power as, purely being about control and dominance.
Mm-hmm.
And it really underscores the importance of finding ways to empower more people in these positive and constructive ways.
Okay, so we've talked about how feeling powerless can hold us back and how feeling powerful can actually make us stronger, more compassionate, even more generous. But how do we actually tap into this positive power? Is it something we're just born with, or can we cultivate it? The audio had some pretty cool stuff to say about that, right? Okay, so get this. The audio talked about how we can actually shift our internal state, like just by changing our posture.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
I know, right? It sounds crazy, but there's actually research backing it up. Yeah.
Well, what does the research say?
It suggests that it's not just about how other people perceive us, but it's really about how it impacts us internally.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like our bodies are sending these signals to our brains even if we're not aware of it.
Okay.
And get this, those signals can actually change our hormone levels, making us feel more confident and less stressed.
No way.
Yeah. Studies show that high power poses, like those expansive postures where you kind of take up space, can increase testosterone, which is linked to confidence, and decrease cortisol, the stress hormone.
Wow. So it's like giving your body this shot of confidence.
Exactly. Remember those studies the audio mentioned?
Yeah.
Where people doing these power poses were more likely to take a gamble.
Ah,
They were literally changing their biochemistry just by changing their posture.
that's pretty powerful.
It is. And what's even crazier is that the effect of posture on feelings of power was even stronger than actually being assigned to a powerful role.
Wow.
So it's not just about, faking it till you make it. Power posing can actually have a real impact on how we feel. It's pretty empowering to know that we might have more control over our feelings than we think.
Yeah, totally. And this goes back to, the idea of presence that we were talking about before.
Right.
By being more aware of our body language and how it can influence how we feel,
Yeah.
we can actually start to, cultivate a more powerful and authentic presence.
Yeah, it's like our bodies are always talking even when we're not saying anything. And sometimes those nonverbal messages can actually undermine our own power and presence.
Right.
Think about how often, we're all hunched over our phones, kind of shrinking ourselves down. That's sending a message of powerlessness, not just to other people, but to ourselves too.
That's a good point. I never thought about it like that before.
Yeah. And the audio even mentioned that inspiring story about that soccer player who imagined herself in a power pose before a game, even though she was in a wheelchair.
Oh, yeah?
It really shows that presence is more about a state of mind, not just a physical stance.
I love that story.
Me too.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what's one small change you can make to your body language today to feel more powerful and present?
Yeah, that's a great question for all of us to consider. Whether it's standing tall, taking up space, or simply just uncrossing your arms,
Yeah.
pay attention to those little cues and see how they make you feel. You might be surprised by the results. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of power and presence. We'll see you next time.